Many of us have aspirations of reaching that millionaire status to finally become a millionaire. But what if we tweaked that goal a little bit and instead of making $1 million, we gave it away? That's right. What if you had a goal of giving away $1 million? Well, this actually was a real life goal that a friend of mine hit. And he hit this before the age of 40. It is a crazy story, and I'm excited to share his journey and how he was able to do this. I know that you're going to be inspired. Let's meet him right now. Bob Lotich.
Yes.
You're a friend. You're a financial blogger. You're now an author. I guess you actually have already wrote a few books.
Yeah.
But this is like a bigger deal to you.
This is the first published book. The other ones are kind of self-published. Let's throw it out there, see what happens type of stuff.
Yeah. So we're here talking about this book, Simple Money, Rich Life, that you wrote like in a weekend, right?
Yes. One weekend. Honestly, it was like 3 hours. Just kind of knocked it out.
Dude, you have lived a very interesting life. I mean, I've never met anybody that was so diligent about taking a sabbatical like once a year.
Yeah.
Like you're the first person I ever even heard that. Yeah. And I'm sure I've heard the word sabbatical, but the fact like, oh wow, like you actually do this and you do it every single year. And then you went another level. And really quickly, just share that. Because I think people, and we've talked about that before on an older YouTube video, but it's worth repeating.
Yeah, so in 2017, I took a 1-year sabbatical, which that's what you're talking about, right? The 1 year, the big boy. And so that was a crazy journey. Like, I mean, direct me where you want me to go with this.
No, like just for people to understand, you have your own business. You know, you're a business owner, online business. You were working from home predominantly, and God gave you a nudge that said you need to take some time off.
Yeah.
And if I recall, it wasn't initially to take a year off, correct? Or
no, so I was just taking the 1 month sabbatical like we do every year. And then kind of at the end of that previous year I was particularly burnt out and just had a really difficult year and just burnt out. I think that's what it was. And taking that 1 month off, and I know to anyone like listening who's never taken a sabbatical, you think this is insane. But even after that 1 month, I felt like I don't really feel like this made any difference. This didn't help, which I know like just sounds like so insane for somebody who's like, oh, I can't even take 2 days off, like, you know. But I was like that burnt out that at the end of that, it's just like that wasn't working. And somewhere in there, like you said, like I was praying and I just sensed God kind of leading me to take an entire year off. And I'm like, I don't know. I kind of got some other plans here. I got things that I want to do. And, you know, I'm someone who likes work. I enjoy working. And so that was a big act of faith, not to mention like, how are we going to pay our bills, provide for our family, all this stuff. But I'm thankful that we did. It ended up being one of the most life-changing, probably the most life-changing year in my entire life. And so much has come out of that. I think I improved as a human being so much. There was so much recalibration for me personally, as well as our business, our family, like lots of fantastic stuff came out of that. And so I'm really glad that I obeyed that little prompting or nudge.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there were times where like, what am I doing?
Oh yeah, a lot. A lot.
Is this really what you want me to do? You mentioned that there were a few or several aha moments or discoveries.
Yeah.
Like, can you just share like something that only happened because you obeyed and you took that 1 year off?
Well, I mean, one of the most important things to me was that basically 6 months prior to that, my wife and I had started the process of adoption, and we started kind of working with this adoption agency. And they said, you know, typically the way that we work is we meet with birth mothers when they're about 4 months pregnant, and so that means for you probably about a 5-month heads up before any adoption opportunity is available. And so we're thinking, all right, so we're going to be about a 5-month heads up. Well, anyway, like 2 weeks after I basically made that decision to take the entire year off, the adoption agency calls us and says, hey, we have a really unique situation. We have a little girl who was born last night. So can you come down to Alabama like today? And my wife and I like instantly like put down the phone and then packed up for like 10 days because you need to, when you're doing cross state lines, you need to be there for 10 days. So we just rushed out of the house, went down and got our baby girl. And I got to spend, the first year of her life with her. And had I just been working like normal, like I had so much stuff planned those next couple months, and I have no idea how that would have worked out. But that was one like kind of practical thing where it's like, wow, the timing of this is just perfect. But like just within my own personal ambitions and stuff, like I just sensed God doing some purification stuff throughout that year in my heart, where I was just, I don't know, just like drifting just a little bit in the wrong direction. He's just like, just nudged me right back kind of where I needed to be.
Wow. Like, you've told me that story, but it's one of those stories. I mean, it's one of those God stories that you have to continue to share. Just for people to hear. And maybe at times, like in those times where maybe things aren't working out exactly how you want. And it's just to remember, like, don't you remember that time?
Oh, yeah. No, and we're going through one now. Like, we're going through our own struggle right now and a couple different things. But like, that's exactly it. I was just talking to my wife, Linda, today, and she was just reading this verse. I forget which one it was. She was saying it was encouraging her. And just that exact point, like looking back at what God has done, it's like he was faithful then, he's going to be faithful now through what we're going through.
And maybe kind of put a bow on the sabbatical, just to kind of share, because you took a year off, and I mean your business thrived, like it increased, didn't it? Or
I mean revenue wise over the course of the year dropped, but like one of the things we're probably going to talk about today.
Well, actually, I was trying to make a funny joke because I remember. I do remember you sharing, because you had an assistant that was keeping things going as best as she could. But when it's like if you own a franchise or any sort of business and you step out for a year, I mean, for the most part, like, yes, it'll continue to churn some revenue, but you're probably going to see a decline. And I just wanted to share that because it wasn't like you took time off and the business took off or it stayed flat. Like, no, there was other things that were like, oh my gosh, am I really making the right decision? Like seeing revenue drop and, we have a new kid now. I mean, that just adds all this level of stress, but yet.
Well, I mean, and even beyond that, like, as I thought as soon as this year was over, that I was going to have all this awesome insight and revelation, whatever, that the next year was going to take off like this, and it didn't. It just kind of stayed like flat. So we came down and just kind of like hovered down here. It's like, all right, was this really the right decision? But now that we're 4 years out from this, like this whole book came out of that. Like this wouldn't have happened without it. And I never had a desire to write a book, but this was part of what came out of that year. And anyway, it's just a whole new calibration of our business and where we're going and redirecting and stuff. And I feel very, very confident that it was the best thing I could have done. And I'll be able to look back 10 years from now and be able to say that with a whole lot of confidence.
Yeah. So simple money, rich life. I think in addition to you taking sabbaticals and taking that time off, I think another part about you that I've always been, I'll say impressed, or just that you've been I'll call it a radical giver. I mean, a faithful giver. Like, because typically
you can say crazy.
Okay. Well, so I mean, obviously for those reading the headline of this video and this interview, giving away $1 million by age 40. But let's kind of like backtrack a little bit, and like let's just talk about when did you start giving, and what did that look like for you? How did that feel in times when you're making not a lot of money, or in times that you're making good money? Because sometimes like, it's easy to give 10% of 10,000, but like, man, when I'm making a lot of money and now it's like I'm giving away, oh God, you want me to give you 40,000? Whew, I don't know about that one. Because and that's something that I had to wrestle through. Like, oh my gosh, like that's a lot of commas, like that's a lot of zeros. Like I'm used to the giving the small amount. You want me to give you the big amount now? Like, I don't know. Are you sure about that? Maybe put it in a high yield savings account.
100%. Like, I've thought through all of those things. I mean, let me tell you a story, just taking back to like my giving journey. Like, I remember kind of when I first became a Christian, and I was going to church in this small town in Florida, and it's 75 people in this church, and we have a guest preacher that comes one day, and he gets up, starts preaching. In the middle of the sermon, he looks around and goes, "Who here is not tithing?" And it's like, this is a room of 75 people. And so it's like, everyone knows each other. Like, this is a small little room. And everybody's like looking around like, does he want us to answer? And, you know, normal when you hear a preacher like not get a response, they're like, all right, let's move on. You know, this guy's like the opposite. He's like, who here is not tithing? Tell me, you know.
Wow.
And I'm like looking down, you know, I'm 20 years old at this point, new Christian. Like, is this what you do in church? Like, I don't know if this is normal. Like, is this what giving is? Is this the way it's supposed to be? All this stuff. I'm like having all these thoughts, and I'm also secretly trying to think, can I like sneak out of this room under the chairs? And so this guy continues, like just continues interrogation. And finally, there are two guys, they like sheepishly raise their hand and admit that they're not consistently tithing. And then I thought like that would be the end of it. But no, he calls them down to the front and then publicly berates them in front of the whole church.
Wow.
For the error of their ways, for not consistently, they tithe sometimes. They just didn't consistently do it. And I remember leaving that day from that church and I'm like, this is crazy. Is this what giving is? Is this that thing that Jesus said it's more blessed to give than to receive? Like, because I don't want anything to do with this. Like, I want nothing with this at all. And so that was like kind of like my first, these are some of the hurdles that I had to overcome as a giver. And what I've grown to find out is that giving has now become like just one of my favorite things in life. It's one of our most joyous things when we can take a moment, when we can use the little that we have. And so one random example, when we first moved here, we were staying at this Hyatt hotel just down the road. And we were there one night and we were getting ready to pack up. And I remember I was going to leave a tip for the cleaning lady. And so I go into my wallet, I'm trying to find, just a couple bucks, throw in a pillow. All I had was a 20. And I'm like, that's a lot to just give a cleaning lady for one night. Then I'm like, I don't have anything else. I'm like, yeah, just go for it. So I put it on the pillow. We walk out right as she was coming in. We go down to the elevator. And as we're pressing the button in the elevator, she comes running down the hall, jumping up and down with tears in her eyes, so excited, thanking us profusely about this $20 tip we just left her. And I remember like going down that elevator, talking to Linda, my wife, and saying, hon, that was $20. Like, we could have blown that on lunch. We could have blown that on anything. Like, that really didn't mean that much to me. But like, look at what that did in her life. Like, look at how small amount to us impacted her so much. That might have made her week or her month, you know? And if we can do this more, like, I want to do more of that. I want more of those moments where I get to enjoy this giving thing and someone else does as well. And so that was like kind of one of those moments like, all right, how do we get to do more of this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I know I drifted from your question a little bit, so pull me back in.
No, that's
because you're talking about like the commas and as the numbers get bigger.
But like it's important to have that, because when you gave this $20, I mean, it wasn't like you handed it to her and you were like, here it is. All right, tell me how awesome I am now.
Yeah.
You know, like the intent was like, I'm just going to leave this here and let God do his thing. Yeah. And she was so moved by that. I actually have to tell you, I hijacked the conversation, but like I had a similar story when we had, it was like fall break. This is Florida area. And this is like there's like a hurricane that had recently happened. So a lot of like power was still out. People were, people were in their homes, and there's a lot of damage. And we still went there for break, and we went to a restaurant. We had a young girl like taking care of us, and she just casually mentions that like her apartment was destroyed.
Oh wow!
Like all her belongings are like ruined, and she's like sleeping on the couch of a friend's house. And she's probably like in her younger 20s, but like the way that she talked about it, I mean, but she didn't complain at all. It was all like, she was grateful that she had a place to stay and that she was okay and none of her family were hurt. And I'm like, wow. I mean, for her to focus on that was like, it just made me feel good, you know? Like, that's so awesome that, because I've never been in that situation. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, gosh, like when my Wi-Fi goes out, I'm in a bad mood, right? Yeah. So I hear this young girl and just like choosing gratitude. And we were having dinner with actually our neighbors. They were there, and I ended up leaving her the largest tip I've ever left in my life. And similar deal, right? I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell the couple. You know, I put it on the credit card, whatever. And we walked to the car. And I'm kind of weird like this because I didn't even want to give her the chance to come say thank me. You know, I was like, I tried to get out of there as fast as I could. Yeah. But the parking lot was like really far. So we got like 80% the way there. And next thing I know, I see or I hear like this a female voice saying, "Excuse me, sir," like chasing after me.
Yeah.
And she was sobbing.
Yeah.
And she was just like, "Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know how much this means to me."
That's awesome.
And it was cool. Like I said, my wife didn't know. The couple
Yeah.
didn't know. They assumed I gave her a nice tip.
Yeah.
But like that was one of those moments that I felt like God said, "Yeah, like
Yeah.
this is going to impact her life
Yeah.
more than what it's going to do for you." And
Yeah, but it's impacting yours too.
yeah,
And so you have this memory now. Like, and that's what's so cool is that it's a moment that blesses both of you, and it can be multiplied. And yeah, I love that. Sorry, keep going.
yeah. So like, I'm always careful because I want to make sure that I'm not doing it to make myself. I mean, I want to feel good,
Yeah.
but I don't want it as like, "Hey, look at me,"
Yeah, grand scheme. Yeah, for sure.
So like that's like one of those I'll say tricky balances, but it's just when you know that you can make make an impact with $20, $100. I mean, it could be buying somebody a coffee or a meal.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have an impact. So okay,
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a lot. That's what I think. That's the thing that so many people miss is they think, well, I need to get rich first before I can start giving.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. Like, we can make such a big impact with situations like this. And adding to that point, like, what I love about that, again, coming back to this, is that you would have forgotten about that meal. You wouldn't have anything else to share about it. We wouldn't be talking about it now, but you remember that. She remembers it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just multiplied, and it's cool thing that because of a choice of what you made to do with some money that you had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I love that. Like that's one of those situations where my kids weren't there, but there was a book that I read, and I can't remember. Gosh, you probably read the book too, but it talked about this guy who he always kept $100 bills in his wallet.
Blessed life.
Blessed life.
Yeah.
And I guess they just, as a kid, like they remember their dad, he would just like randomly give these $100 bills to people. Mm-hmm. And I read that, I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And it's been a little while. I mean, COVID kind of changed a lot of different things, but there was a time where, like, if I saw somebody in need, I just like, all right, God, here we go.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And I know my kids were like, Dad, to the point where like, hey, buddy, I mean, I know we can help a lot of people, but I can't help everybody, because he just want to give it to everybody. God love him. But it's just making that choice, being willing to listen and be faithful. So that's awesome. So, all right. So you didn't get called up to front of the church and get blasted.
I didn't. I held my head down. I did not.
So Bible says, 10% is what you tithe. At what point in time was 10%, I don't want to say not enough, but you felt like you were called to give more?
Yeah. So that was one of those crazy moments where I remember being, basically we had paid off all of our credit cards, all of our student loans, our car loans at that point. We were making a lot of progress financially, but I wanted to pay off our house. I had this 3 or 4 year plan to pay off our house. And I remember going up to this field to pray, and I'm specifically praying about this. It's like I have a 3 or 4 year plan, but God, I want it faster. I want to get our house paid off even faster. Which, again, I'm an American. I just want it as fast as I can get it. And so, being there that day, as I was praying about this, like I sensed the Lord just like speaking to my heart a little bit. This communication. It basically said, if you really want to see me move in your finances, I want you to begin giving your age as a percentage of your income. And I remember like thinking, that's crazy, because I was given probably 10 or 11% at that point, and I was 31 at the time. So it's like, you are really kind of asking me, encouraging me, inviting me to give 31% of my income when I was giving 11, like almost tripling it. And I'm doing math in my head. I'm like, I don't even know if we can do this. I don't know if we can pay the rent. Like I don't, it's like, this seems impossible. So I go back home and I talk to Linda, and it's really great when you and your spouse can be on board. And she had a piece about this idea and like thought I was crazy, but like wanted to go on the adventure, felt like it was right. And so, so with that, I honestly kind of felt a little bit like, I don't know, a little bit upset and challenged, because I felt like, God, I just came to you praying to get our mortgage paid off faster. Now you want us to give all of our money away, so it's going to take 10 years to pay off our mortgage. But anyway, even still, like I just felt this gentle invitation to step out into this thing with him. And So we decided to do it. And starting that month, we gave 31% of our income. And it was 10 months later, not 10 years, but 10 months later, our mortgage was paid off. We were 100% debt free. And looking back, and then I'm like, no idea how that happened. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. The math doesn't add up. But I'm really glad I made that decision.
And just so we're clear, like, you're not living in like some starter $30,000 home to pay off the mortgage like that quickly. I mean,
that house, probably $200,000 house or something. So it wasn't like, still a starter home, but not a tiny home.
Right. Okay. So 31%, and you already answered the question. I'm like, because I feel like the way I would approach this is, all right, God, my age. Okay, so I'm going to work up to that, So if I can get there by the end of the year, okay, awesome, right? Yeah. But no, like you started immediately.
We just dove in. And it's, when you know. And that's what it was. It was one of those things, it's like I just knew it was what we were supposed to do. And so we went for it.
And that's, so 31, 32, 33, continuing to increase that, 41.
Yeah.
Which I actually love this because this is before the FIRE movement was a thing, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so financial independent, retire early, and really big, crazy saving, like 30%, 40%, greater than 50%. Yeah. So this is like, I mean, I would love to hear like a FIRE advocate, that's like, you need to save half your income, as opposed to like, oh, what about giving away 30%, 40%? But I would, and maybe I'll let you finish the argument, but I would argue that you have a sense of independence that is different than what somebody's trying to achieve by retiring early.
Yeah. So, one of the ways I like to describe this is, we call it true financial freedom, which I just don't think financial freedom is enough. You can have $5 million in the bank, you can retire by 40, you can whatever, be financially free, like all of these things. And for me, that, and I've had facets of that and, had the 4-hour work week for a while and like all these different things, but that isn't true freedom to me. Like, cause you can still have all that stuff and still be really worried about money. You can still be freaked out about money. You can still be afraid to spend money. You can be afraid people are going to take it from you. And that doesn't feel like freedom to me. But freedom to not be attached to your money, to not have it, have its claws on you and have control over you and affect your decision making, affect your peace. That is the real freedom, the way I feel it, the way I describe it, where it's not contingent on your circumstances, where you can have peace whether you have a little bit or you have a lot. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm advocating for, and that's what we're trying to help people do with the book. Is, we want to help you have more money, but regardless of how much you have, we want you to have freedom and have peace in that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Like that's powerful. It's powerful, and because when I look at, not to pick on FIRE, I love any initiative that's having people really focus on, okay, how much are you spending? How much do you really need to live off of? Because we were just talking about our joggers and our pants, and there's just certain things that we like, that's just, we're human nature. Like, we're humans, right? We like these things, but we overaccumulate things, and we just have so much attachment to, could be vacations, could be meals eating out, conveniences. Yeah. And it's so easy just to kind of fall into that. And we've got 4 kids. So I have 4 kids. So like, there are certain conveniences that I enjoy paying for that allow me to be a better dad and a better husband at times. But there's oftentimes, like, I've had to really ask myself, like, gosh, is this something that I really need? Yeah. I have the money, but if I didn't have this, and what could I use that money for? Or who could I give, that money to? All right, so I want to go back to choosing the savings rate, having your age, increasing it every year. Yeah. How hard was that? I mean, the fact that you're willing to save 31%, I mean, that in itself is, I mean, it's amazing, right? Yeah. It's amazing to be able to do that and pay off your home and raise a family, live a good life. It's not like you're living in a shack with
Yeah.
no electricity in like the mountains of North Carolina. It's like,
Yeah.
you live in the, Nashville, Franklin area. I mean, you lived in the St. Louis area. Like you've had a nice home, you have a nice home, you have nice things. And yet you're still increasing every single year how much you save.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think the question that I had, or I would have had when I was, because if you would have said 15 years ago that I'd be doing this, I'm like, there's no way, that's impossible, especially where I come from. Like, I mean, I came from a very middle class family. Like this wasn't normal. This wasn't how we did things. But the way that, this is the thing that I think people don't realize is how powerful making something automatic is. And so, kind of the question you were asking a little bit earlier that we diverted from was this idea of, well, it's $10,000 now, but as that increases, that's 15, that's 20, that's 30, 40, $50,000 you're giving away. And when you make it automatic, which has been our secret sauce, if you will, it's like we made it automatic, so there's no decisions to be made. It's a one-time decision, and then therefore it's no longer a decision. That has made it so much easier to handle those times. And then at the end of the year, when we get our tax statement or whatever, and we say, oh, wow, we gave this much. Now we can just celebrate it. It's already done. It's not a decision that has to be made. And we just get to celebrate of what God's been able to do through our giving,
Yeah. So logistically, for those that are, interested, like I get caught up in like the minutiae of the details of like, okay, you said you made it automatic.
Yeah.
How did you make it automatic?
Yeah. So, I mean, in our case, I would say this is pseudo-automatic. But what we do is so we get our paycheck each month, and then we break out that percentage, 41% at this point, and it gets funneled to different accounts. So one is just going directly to our local church, supporting that. Another one is going to an account set up specifically for all of this. Those two stories we've both talked about your tip and about our housekeeper thing. It's like situations like that. We have an account set up, money goes in there, it's no longer ours. Once it's in there, it can only be given. And that has made giving so much fun because it's like, once it crosses that line into the account, now it's like it's someone else's money. And
Does that account have a name?
Yeah, we call it a seed account.
Okay.
And so that account, once we get it in there, now it's like giving someone else's money away. And so we're looking for opportunities, which is another big part of this, because these opportunities are around us all the time.
Yeah.
But so often we're not looking for them. But if we have money sitting there and we're looking for them, God connects the dots, and then we get to be doing this stuff.
Oh gosh, that's fun.
Yeah, it is. I know. This is what I mean. This is why I finally think Jesus is right. It's more blessed to give than to receive. Like, I thought he was wrong for so many years, but I get it now.
Yeah. But and I mean, just the way you've described this, it sounds like you're constantly in, like kind of like the driver's seat, like looking at your surroundings, listening, like, I would like to help out.
Yep.
Or no, I'm sorry, God would like to help out, with this need. And just makes you more attentive I'm 4 kids, stressful at times, and it's easy to kind of get sucked into the, gosh, I'm tired.
Yeah.
But having the seed fund, like it takes you out of you and your own environment, just constantly looking for ways. And once again, we're talking about this is post-COVID now, but you have a work from home business.
Yep.
So it's not like you have coworkers, you're going to an office. I mean, you're in public a lot, or a lot of public situations. So I guess, has that been challenging, trying to find these opportunities?
Not really, because, so for example, we just had one of our readers, or somebody on Instagram just reached out to us a couple months ago, and she said that she was in her mid-30s, her husband unexpectedly died, and she has, I think, 2 or 3 kids. And she was just reaching out, like, what do I do? Can you help? And so Lynn and I jumped on the phone with her, and we started talking to her. And it's like, it's heartbreaking, but it's like, all right, this is what this is for. Like, we can help in this situation. You know what I mean? So, like, those situations are arising even if we can't leave the house, or GoFundMe, like somebody shares a GoFundMe around. It's like, I want to be able to help in this situation. So, I think the opportunities are always there. I think it's just a matter of looking for them.
I love that. Wow. So what's maybe just another example of a situation, a person that you're able to plant a seed with them because of making this choice.
Just in terms of giving and generosity, they're saying. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things though, like in that case, like I said, similar to you, like I don't like having the face-to-face contact. In fact, like one of my favorite things is just kind of give anonymously and to do the James Bond thing where I get to sneak around. So I've figured out like all these covert ways to kind of give. And so like I figured out you can go to a bank and have them like create a check with your number on the bottom, but it doesn't have your name on it.
Okay.
So you can give someone a check and leave it in the mailbox and they won't know it's you type of thing. And so some of my favorite memories are just of stuff like that, where I get to sneak around and I find out that this person has this need, and I just get to go deposit the check, stand back, and then kind of watch their reaction, like from the sidelines. And I don't know, I love it. I nerd out on stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That's so much fun, man. Like I love it, and you've actually inspired me, because I think my kids are, they're craving this too. I mean, like when we did the $100 thing, I mean they were looking for opportunities. Like I could be in the car, kind of like spaced out, traffic, whatever, and then Bentley, my middle son, he would see somebody asking for money. Yeah. He's like, Dad, and like just the fact that he would notice that. Yeah. I thought there was another situation I can't think of right now, but I love this because having situations like we've had people at church or even at their school, that house burned down, situations like that, right? Yeah. I mean, something happened to a grandparent, maybe a parent, and if we had a seed fund that they knew about, like, hey, Dad, Mom, like, hey, this happened to so and so. What do you think about taking some of that? I mean. Anyway, that just like really excites me about those type of conversations that I get to have, and I'm sure that you'll be able to have like with your kids when they get older, and you'll be able to appreciate that. So that's awesome.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the takeaways here, I think what's so important about channels like yours and what you're sharing is that this is part of the reason, this is part of the motivation, is like getting into the financial place so that you can do stuff like this and you can do more of it. Because we can do this on a small scale, like you said, with small tips and things like that. But being able to up that and increase that to bigger numbers, add a zero at the end of it, like that gets really, really fun. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I want to be like Oprah when I grow up, and just like giving out cars and whatever, like all this stuff. And so that's part of the motivation for getting your finances in order and like moving forward and building wealth. Like it's not just so you can accumulate it all for yourself. I mean, I think we're on the same page with this, right? Like, there's more than just accumulation, and that's kind of what we're excited about.
I mean, we could talk about the giving away $1 million by age 40, giving away 31%, and or now 41%. Obviously, many people listening to this, watching this, are not at that stage yet. Yeah. And just wanting to make it practical for them. Just kind of going back to the beginning. I mean, you mentioned some of your story at the beginning, but just how can try to give somebody some encouragement that is maybe in between jobs or in a career that they're just not excited about, and maybe they're in a living situation, a housing situation that they're just not satisfied with, maybe they're renting, they want to own, and just how can someone like that give?
Yeah.
Like,
so I think the biggest thing is just start where you are. Like, don't jump to 31%. You don't have to do that. And to be honest, like I'm not recommending anybody give their age. Like that was something that I felt like we were supposed to do. And I've since bumped into other people who have done that, which is really fun. But it's not about that. It's not about the percentage. It's just about, giving what you feel like is on your heart to give and not being limited by fear. And so one kind of practical thing that I want to add here is we started giving 31%. We're now giving 41%. Okay. That increase of 10%, we haven't ever felt it because it's been 1% per year over the last 10 years. And I think most people miss this. And just, being transparent about our financial income over those years. It's not like it was just all awesome. Like we've had some down years. We've had some challenging years over the last 10 years, and yet we never felt a difference from giving 31 to 41% because it was 1% every year. So I'm encouraging people, 1% change. I've never met anyone who felt it and who felt it so much that they're like, oh man, that was so much, 1%. Like whether it's saving or giving 1%, like 99% of people will not feel a difference at all and yet you can move forward. So this idea of just taking 1%, increase 1% every year, it's like you do that for a decade or two, it's like you've come really, really far, you know?
Yeah. Dude, so Simple Money, Rich Life, Achieving True Financial Freedom, and Design a Life of Eternal Impact.
Yeah, man.
When somebody picks this book up and they begin reading it, and they finish reading it, what is your hope?
Well, we designed the book. So we talk about giving in this book, but really there's a lot of practical stuff in here. Like my goal with this book is to take someone to be able to have more money, but to also get excited to be able to give more. So we go through the practical stuff of how to earn more, without having to get a high side hustle. But we also talk about the practical stuff of how to spend smarter, how to automate our finances, how to make everything simpler, hence the name Simple Money. And together, once we've done that and added more cash flow to your pocket, then it's like, let's get excited about giving. So that was the goal. How do we combine these things ultimately to leave people with more money in their pocket and a desire to give and have fun doing it?
I remember when you told me that you were beginning to write this book. I don't know if I was excited for you just because I remember how I felt.
You know how hard it is.
when I wrote mine, but I do remember how good it felt to finally get it into my hands.
Oh yeah.
And not just because I got to hold it, because I knew that kind of like the seed fund, right? That I get to actually give this away and hopefully impact as many people as I can.
Yeah.
So, dude, congratulations, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
So if somebody wants to pick this book up, I tell them to go to Borders.
Well, yeah, you can go anywhere. SimpleMoneyBook.com has it. Yeah.
Okay. SimpleMoneyBook.com. We'll have a link in the description or show notes to check that out. And this is out now, right?
It's out now.
It is. Awesome. Well, all right. We'll have, be sure to pick this book up. I'm looking forward to diving in. I'll be flat out. I'm 44 years old. I don't know if I'm ready to do 44% right now, but I'm definitely interested in challenging myself to see.
Yeah.
Because every time I feel like, at least what I've learned, anytime I do something uncomfortable, that means growth.
Yep.
And I'm being challenged,
100%.
and I think we all need some challenge in our lives. So,
yeah, brother.
oh man, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, brother.